Timeshifters hope that you enjoyed this rare and infamous moment that combines a first-rate disaster with genuine historical significance. But now it's time to take a deep breath and get those cameras out as we prepare to temporally reset you to one of the most fantastic catastrophes in history. Are you ready?
Everyone, and welcome to the Timeshifters podcast. This is Christopher, and I am here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Tom. Tom, how are you?
It's been a rough weekend, that's to be sure, but I'm happy to be here and feeling much better.
Good. I am glad that you have recovered from your brief illness.
I keep flashing to, what's his name? Is it... It's not Sean Astin. Gomez from
John Astin.
John Astin. I keep flashing on John Astin and his time on Night Court when he goes, but I'm feeling much better now.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you are.
Thank you.
I have had not a bad couple of weeks. I ended up having a little bit of fun last weekend where you were unfortunately under the weather. I got a chance to go to the Indiana Comic Convention.
Cool.
This is the second time I've been to this one, but it's been a long time since I've been to this one. Last time I was to this one, Jenna Coleman was like the big thing because she was in the middle of her stint on Doctor Who.
Oh, okay.
So it has been a while because she was a guest there at the convention the last time I was there. So I figured I was due to go back and check this one out. So I was able to get a pass for it. And I went and they had a pretty good guest list, but they had so many guests that I really couldn't do much with just the one day that I was there.
Right. I
really kind of needed to be there all weekend to catch all the Q&As that I really wanted to get to. Because I was just doing this in a day trip. Doors didn't open until 10 a.m., and I needed to be home that evening, so I couldn't stay until the wee hours or anything, so I actually ended up missing. I was really hoping to get in and sit in on it was the Sons of Anarchy panel.
Oh, okay.
Just because it had Ron Perlman.
Oh, yeah. No, it'd be fun to watch him.
Yeah, it'd be really neat to hear him and see him and get some questions from him. But I was not able to stay for it. It was too late. But no more did I get there. I was able to bump into a couple of friends of mine, Scott and Tracy, who host the Disney Indiana podcast.
Nice.
Were there. They were there helping a friend of theirs at their booth. So it was nice talking with them for a few minutes. I was able to hang out with them for a little bit, get some lunch. I usually only see them once a year if I make it the Monster Bash.
Yeah.
And if they manage to make it out there as well. And actually, by the time everyone hears this, I should have it put together and in the stream. I'm going to have a couple clips from both of the panels that I was able to sit on with just a few of the questions that were asked and their answers. So I'm only mentioning it here because this is like the main show. And in case you guys maybe skipped over it or you didn't see it, go back. It should be there, I'm hoping. And you hear the actual questions and the answers. And so I'm not going into a whole lot of detail about a lot of people says that it's going to be in that show. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I wish I could have spent more time with more Q&As. Because the convention itself, I'm not going to say it was like a bad convention.
Yeah.
But, I'm walking around the vendor floor, which was really big. They had a really large vendor floor.
Yeah.
When we go to the conventions, we've done it when we've gone to the Comic Expo, there's like that one booth. Or maybe if we're lucky, there's 2 or 3 booths. So it's kind of like, ooh, we got to stop here.
Right.
There wasn't that at this.
Really?
Yeah. I really felt like even though everyone was kind of selling different things, it felt like just a lot of the same, if you understand.
No, well, and having been a convention goer to multiple different kinds, I have been noticing the longer these things go, the more homogenous they start to feel. Like everybody's got a little bit of all the same stuff. They're all trying to especially when you're looking for vendors, trying to find that rare item or that special thing, it's getting harder and harder to do. Like the thing that you and I seem to enjoy coming across in Comic Expo are the individual artists that come up with their own material to sell, not just selling whatever's the latest and greatest toy line and or
Right.
or and I know these are all comic book related and I've gotten away from reading, but even the stuff that's out there, it's just they're all selling the stuff that they couldn't sell in the store.
Yeah. Well, this is obviously when they bring the stuff to the different conventions, they are focusing their product to that convention, whatever the theme is or whatever. So, but I understand what you mean. And I think that's where I was saying that it feels like, oh, look, there's a really great looking artist rendition of the Enterprise D.
Right.
And then you go down a couple booths and wow, look, there's a really great artist rendition of the Enterprise D.
And then it just becomes which booth can, if you're interested in actually purchasing such thing, which booth can I get the better deal at?
Right. Yeah. Which of these two styles do I like the most? Or,
right.
Because if I can only afford one, there was a couple that, if money were no object, I probably would have grabbed this one or two. There was one, and I mentioned Enterprise D for a reason, because there was one who was doing the artwork like on metal.
Oh, okay.
So it had that really nice
Texture.
look, the nice, real smooth and shiny. But the way he did it, it had you looked like you're looking into a window.
Oh wow!
And it looked really cool. And that's something that if I had money that I didn't need elsewhere, it would be yet another print that I haven't found room on the wall for. The cosplay was pretty strong at this con.
Saw a few of the photos you posted.
Yeah, well, there were some really good ones. There was a really good Predator, which it seems like that's actually kind of becoming... Yeah, it looked really good, but even that seems like, well, every con I go to, unless it's the same person, there's a lot of people doing some really good Predator costumes.
Yeah, no, I saw the one, and then I saw you at least came across some group stuff, like the group that was in Spaceballs.
Yeah, that was fun. I thought that was a nice touch. There's always those kind of oddball cosplayers. There was a Mr. Rogers and the trolley. His wife was dressed as the trolley.
That's pretty cute.
That was very cute. A Colonel Sanders carrying around a bucket of KFC.
Well, it's good to have a snack while you also impersonate the man.
It looked really good, and someone else mentioned something. He's like, "Nope, sorry, it's fake." Yeah, there was some fun stuff. There was like Lego Flash and Lego Superman. They looked pretty good.
Very cool.
There was a nice Beetlejuice, really nice Scarecrow and Two-Face. I thought were a couple of costumes that were really good.
I don't know if I caught those. I'll have to go back and look.
Yeah, I think I posted them. You can find them on our social media accounts. Just to follow the link in the show notes, and you'll go to the YouTube or Twitter or Spoutable, and I'll have the photos there. But yeah, all in all, I didn't feel like it was a wasted afternoon.
That's good. But obviously, based off of your conversation here, maybe a little below what we've come to expect out of the Cincinnati Comic Expo.
I mentioned that Ron Perlman, the only way you're going to get his Q&A was in the Sons of Anarchy panel.
Right.
And I understand why conventions do that sort of stuff, because you can get the most out of the limited time that you have.
Right.
But there's some actors where you're just feeling like they need to be by themselves.
Yeah, Ron Perlman's filmography is enormous, and you can't help but want to talk to him about at least a little bit of almost everything.
Exactly. John Glover, who was at Expo last year, was a guest at this convention. And Paul Williams, who's going to be a guest at this year's Comic Expo, was at this convention. Well, they had the two of them together in a Batman the Animated Series panel.
Okay.
But I'm like, Paul Williams, he shouldn't be in a shared... He should be by himself with an extra hour and a piano.
And was it just the two of them from Batman the Animated Series?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of a loose thread for those particular two, because John Glover also has an amazing career beyond just Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah, so I think that's unfortunate. Like I said, I understand why you do that, but find a way to squeeze him in. Give him his own time. Even if you have, can you do both? You have to also wonder
how much of this is by actor's choice too. Maybe they don't want to. They want to have that room to not be the only one talking.
Yeah, maybe that's possible too.
It could be, yeah. Besides, we were raised on the old Star Trek conventions where you were lucky if you got one, and then when you got one, yep, they were they were a slave to the audience. It was just the audience and them.
Yeah, Indiana Comic Con is it was a good time if you're out there. I would definitely try to go and actually spend all 3 days. It does the same thing where it starts like Friday afternoon and runs through Sunday. I think you almost have to do that in order to get everything out of it that you can.
And if you've been, share your comments with us.
Please do. If you were there, I'd love to hear if you were able to sit on some of the other Q&As and everything. I'd love to hear your stories and how they all went.
Absolutely.
Well, let's leave that behind. I do have a little bit of news that I wanted to mention. This was kind of exciting. A while ago, Michael Straczynski announced on Twitter that there was exciting news coming in the Babylon 5 universe. And he then finally announced about a week later or so that there's going to be an animated movie. And now there's actually been some news about voice casting.
Oh, nice.
He's actually also given a basic synopsis. He says, travel across the galaxy with John Sheridan as he unexpectedly finds himself transported through multiple timelines and alternate realities in a quest to find his way back home. Along the way, he reunites with some familiar faces while discovering cosmic new revelations about the history, purpose, and meaning of the universe. Now, as far as voice casting go, many of the original surviving cast members are returning.
That's awesome.
So Bruce Boxleitner will be back. Claudia Christian will be back. Peter Jurassic will be back. Bill Mumy, Tracy Scoggins, and Patricia Tallman have all signed on and will be doing voices. Apparently, this thing's in the can.
Oh,
it's
really?
done. Yeah, this thing's done and ready to go out.
Oh, wow. This is an interesting way to get little tips about what's going on. Any chance they have a release date?
The closest they said was that it will... Straczynski said the new film, he suggests it will debut at the San Diego Comic-Con in 2023, and that begins July 20th.
Okay.
So this summer. So close. It's around the corner.
Do we know if this is a theater bound or streaming service bound?
That I do not know. I do not believe it's going to go to any theaters unless it's like a real limited theater engagement sort of thing.
See, I would think that'd be kind of fun to see in a theater.
Oh, absolutely. I think it would be fun, but I would imagine it would be something more like an Alamo Drafthouse kind of thing if it was going to be any kind of theater.
Yeah, see, something like this might be... I'd actually beg for it to be on a big, big screen.
It's called Babylon 5, The Road Home. There's no news that I can find about where it's actually going to land, but...
No, well, I'm excited for it when it comes. I've been trying to find ways to get back to watching all of it, but then it's finding all the little bits and pieces as you near the end. You can get maybe through the series, but then there's the little movies, and then the spin-off series.
I know Babylon 5 was on HBO for a while.
It was. I think it got pulled, but...
It got pulled.
I think it got put somewhere else, though. I haven't checked in a while.
Yeah, I don't know where Warner Brothers. I mean, this is done through Warner Brothers, so I don't know where their stuff is going to end up.
Waiting for them to finish sorting out HBO and Discovery and Max and whatever the hell else is going on.
Yeah. If you, I'll put a link in the show notes to this article on The Verge, but there is a great image from the film of Babylon 5.
Oh, very cool.
It looks mighty pretty.
Yeah, see, it's one of those shows where some more advanced CGI would have made it even better than it was.
So after I got back from the convention and read the news about the Babylon 5 and everything, I did manage to watch a couple films.
That's a shocker to me. So what you got for us?
I just a couple films that I dug up on Amazon Prime. I'll go in order of release kind of thing. One was from 2006 called Bacterium.
Okay.
It was written and directed by Brett Piper, who has a long list of like cheesy monster movies under his name. And in this one, a group of paintballers stumble onto an abandoned house and end up face to face with a biological weapon gone awry. Now, the story is kind of mundane. It's kind of something we've seen a dozen times. And some of the acting was not the strongest, but what was kind of a highlight for me for this film was some really impressive practical effects when it came to portraying the mutating and growing bacterial menace.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they
always like a good practical effect.
Yeah, they didn't use any CGI or anything when it came to the creature, the virus, whatever you want to call it. There was some animated like gunshot muzzle blasts and stuff like that. But when it came to the actual threat, the monsters, it was all practical, and it was done really well for a fairly low budget film. The film itself, watchable.
Yeah.
But it's not great. I mean, it's an okay film.
That's better than terrible.
Jumping up then, though, to 2008, I watched a film called Ninja Cheerleaders.
I saw when you posted this, and I just started laughing just from the little poster and the name of the thing.
Without a doubt, the best martial arts trained college cheerleaders and part-time go-go dancers working hard to realize their Ivy League school dreams while rescuing their sensei from the mob movie that there has ever been.
That's saying a lot. There's so many of those.
I think you would probably enjoy this film. It is one of those films, just like when we were talking last week about sewer gators and killer kites.
Yeah.
It is just kind of nonsense and absurd, but done really well. I mean, this is actually like legitimately funny at times. The acting's pretty good. There's some great lines. I really enjoyed this movie.
So you're saying, like in the same vein, it knows what it is and just goes for it.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's the key to making that kind of film is don't bury the lead, just be what you're gonna be.
Would it surprise you at all if I told you the sensei, it's George Takei?
I don't know, but I love it. Now I just want to watch it more.
Yep, I do. That would help. Now I would definitely recommend this film. It is very silly, but it's done really well, and I had a ball.
Well, and that's part of the point. Is you're just supposed to have a good time.
But yeah, that's all I've been up to, which is quite a bit, I guess. But and I don't think I understand. You had family obligations, and then you got sick, so I know you haven't been doing a whole heck of a lot.
No. My life has been consumed with work, that being sick. Yeah. That means most of anything that I'd watch would just be like things that I turn on that I've probably already seen 1,000 times, like Top Gear.
Right.
It's comfort food where I can just sit there. I hear it more than I'm watching.
Right. And if you fall asleep in the middle of it's no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. I've probably already consumed it 6 other times.
Exactly.
So.
And when you wake up in the middle of another episode, it doesn't matter.
Nope.
It's the same. It's the same show.
Same show, and I'm like, you could convince me that they were still the same episode.
Yep. All right, well, then we'll go ahead and take a break. We'll listen to a promo for another podcast. And then when we get back, we are going to talk about 2007's Transformers.
C-3PO,
Loki,
Mace Windu,
Dr. Bruce Banner,
Captain Rex,
Venom,
Princess Leia,
Jean Grey,
Darth Maul,
Nick Fury,
Grand Moff Tarkin,
Captain America,
Lando Calrissian,
Cyclops.
What do all these characters have in common?
Count Dooku. Well, two of them were played by Samuel L. Jackson.
A couple of them were played by Hammer Films veterans Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee.
Come on, guys. You know this.
Well, of course we do, Jessica. Just like Mickey Mouse and Captain Jack Sparrow, they're all now Disney characters. Hello, I'm Tracy of the Disney Indiana podcast, and my co-host Scott and I enjoy talking about all aspects of the House of Mouse, and that includes their newest properties, Marvel and LucasArts.
We also talk about Disney resorts, the cruise line, theme parks, and whatever else Mickey has to offer.
Which includes movies, Imagineering, video games, and collectibles. You'll never know what we'll decide to talk about.
So check us out at www.disneyindiana.com or do a search for the Disney Indiana podcast on iTunes, because now we've got a lot more to talk about.
And don't forget about those other quote-unquote Disney characters like, well, Sully,
Fozzie Bear,
Buzz Lightyear,
Link Hogthrob,
Doug,
Janice,
Merida,
Pepe,
Bruce,
Ralph the Dog,
Wally,
Dr.
The Disney
Bunsen
Indiana
Honeydew.
podcast. Even after 5 years, we're still miles away from the nearest Main Street, USA.
New Zealand.
We're not listed on the map, but you can join us at www.disneyindiana.com.
Got a little surprise for you, son.
No, Dad! Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, I am. You're not getting a Porsche.
Let me tell you something, son. A driver don't pick the cars. Cars pick the driver. It's a mystical bond between man and machine.
Crash my car!
What you're about to see is totally classified.
Dear God, what is this?
We're under attack!
We're facing war against a technological civilization far superior to our own. Our enemy can take any shape. They could be anywhere.
It's a robot. You know, like a super advanced robot. It's probably Japanese.
No!
I'll drive, you shoot!
You have to get the car. Trust me. Bring it!
Transformers is a science fiction action film released in 2007 and was directed by Michael Bay. The film was based on the Transformers franchise, which originated as a line of toys produced by Hasbro in the 1980s. Sam Witwicky, played by Shia LaBeouf, buys what he thinks is an ordinary beat-up used car. but discovers it is actually a sentient alien robot from the planet Cybertron. Sam and the girl he has a crush on, Michaela, played by Megan Fox, become involved in a war between two factions of robots, the Autobots, led by Optimus Prime, and the evil Decepticons, led by Megatron, who are after an all-powerful remnant of their homeworld, the Allspark. The Autobots wanted to rebuild Cybertron, which was devastated by the war. The Decepticons want to use it to dominate the universe. Sam, the Autobots, and a secret government agency called Sector 7 have to unite to save the world and potentially the universe. The film was a commercial success, grossing over $700 million worldwide, and it was praised for its visual effects and action sequences, but received mixed reviews. The film spawned several sequels: Revenge of the Fallen in 2009, Dark of the Moon in 2011, Age of Extinction 2014, The Last Night 2017, Bumblebee, which is a kind of a spin-off in 2018, and a sixth installment, Rise of the Beasts, hitting theaters this June 2023. Now, you, Tom, are the one that put this on the list, even though you did it. How to put this? This is a painful memory for you.
Let's start from the beginning. I am a huge fan of the Transformers franchise from the perspective of the original stuff. I am fully aware that in 1984, Hasbro launched into essentially a series that was a half-hour-long commercial week after week after week. I know that's what that is. However, aside from the whole, they also took it from Japan, and they made it their own and all that. They latched on to something that was kind of cool for me. That notion that there was an alien race made up not of something biological per se, but mechanical. I thought that was kind of a neat thing. And as they told their story through the cartoon series and then made their own animated movie, they really kind of started to form this whole idea of there was a real story there. There's a history to be had. There's ways to flesh this out, and I thought they did a really good job. It was a lot of fun to watch it. So I was super excited when this was going to go live action. It would have been the greatest thing since sliced bread. I watched everything up to this, and then I saw the film. And Michael Bay went his usual over-the-top, outrageous take on it. It's as if he only marginally paid any attention to the source material. There's lots of thoughts around whether or not his Transformers are reasonable for the screen, but it just became kind of offensive to me overall. The first one is not as bad as all the other ones, but the first one still, my biggest gripe to this day is it's a Transformers movie with almost no Transformers in it. By the time you get to it, okay, it's mostly about the fight sequences, and if you pay any attention, the Transformers themselves have no dialogue. It's all exposition or catchphrases. That's it. They don't, for something that's supposed to be a sentient race, they treat them like they're just things, and it becomes more about the military story and the teenage angst angle. And honestly, if you took the Transformers out of it and kind of told Shia LaBeouf's teenage angst thing, that'd almost be a better movie. Almost.
I was actually thinking the absolute opposite.
Really?
I think you could save this film if you removed everything surrounding Shia LaBeouf's character.
Really?
Drop the wikis, drop Michaela, remove it all, and pass any human story elements to Rachel Madsen and Josh Duhamel.
Okay.
So the Australian scientist and the army captain are far more interesting characters than the noisy and moronic Sam Witwicky and his family.
I could give you that, except for even that stuff. One, it was about them being pretty more than having substance. And from the military perspective, as much as Bay wanted to show off all of his, I guess he's got cred with the military anyway, so he gets to show off, he gets to hang out with them, so he gets to actually get footage of actual honest-to-God military activity, which essentially makes this a movie filled with stock footage. It's good stock footage, but it's stock footage. So he fills it with that. He's got all of that, but honestly, he makes the military not look all that bright in all of this, because it takes the little hacker girl to figure out what's going on. None of them want to listen to her. And they're more about her putting her legs up on the desk than they are about having her actually have an intelligent conversation about what she's doing.
I really think a lot of that goes to Michael Bay. I think the reason Megan Fox is in this film is Michael Bay saw her somewhere and was totally lusting after her and was determined to have her in a film.
Sure.
And to give her anything to do, they had to create LaBeouf's character, which then also gave Bay an excuse to sexualize her any chance he could.
Right, and all you have to do is read any little history about her and Michael Bay to get even more of that.
Yeah.
That's entirely how that went.
Oh, yeah. Her early scenes with the skirt and crop top outfit and her leaning over the hood far more than any person would ever need to lean over the hood of a car. I mean, it was almost disgusting. I mean, it really was disgusting. At this time in her career, Megan Fox, you don't need to, like, overly sexualize her. She is gorgeous.
Yes.
I mean, this is prime Megan Fox. She's beautiful. All you got to do is point the camera at her, and people are going to be mesmerized. You don't need to do this ridiculous, like, weird-ass fantasy thing that Bay had going on.
Well, and even in the scene that you're talking about, they have Shia LaBeouf panting like a dog.
Oh, it was
during it. And it's just, it's too much. It's over the top, and it's not like we in our own minds may not have been there at one point in our lives or another, but I mean, this is a Transformers movie. It's a movie about toys. And we went in that direction.
Well, it was a movie about toys with characters that are supposed to be teenagers, and the whole thing was definitely, obviously written by middle-aged adults.
Right.
So they have absolutely no true idea of how kids in 2007 acted. They have no idea. The toys, I feel like they were probably too old for the toys.
Yeah.
Even in the 80s, they were probably just on the high side.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they didn't really mess with them. They knew they existed.
Right.
And I think that's where this movie truly kind of falls flat. They didn't have the right people writing for this movie.
No, like I said, I'm not gonna over dramatize Transformers the cartoon and the movie. They were cute, they were fun, they were not always well written, they weren't always well dialogued, but they were fun, but they had developed enough of a story that you had a lot better material, and they didn't do anything with it. He wanted to make any one of his other movies that he's ever made, and he put transforming robots in it. I mean, you could have put transforming robots in the middle of his version of Pearl Harbor, and it had made about as much sense.
Yeah. On the robots and the transforming robots and everything, one of the kind of neat things about the cartoon, being that there was based on the toy line, is you can kind of see how one would become the other when it comes from the vehicle to the robot. It made sense because you could do it. You could actually, you could pull, those were his arms, he tucks it in, that sort of stuff. That's really cool. This is like a true, they might as well just melt and turn from one to the other.
Well, and when you get to one of the later movies, that's exactly what they do.
Oh, interesting. I have seen the first 3, and the third one I only just watched, like 4 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Just because I was bored and decided, well, maybe I'll go ahead and watch the rest of these Transformer films. I'm not going to watch the others.
No, because when you get into 4, 5, yeah, no, it just gets progressively worse. But no, I hear what you're saying, because actually I have friends that, granted, by the time they were old enough to do this kind of work, we were up to the Beast Wars version of Transformers. And what I had learned from them is, and this was back when Transformers were also made by Kenner. So when they were working at Kenner and developing Beast Wars figures, they would develop the toy first and how it would transform, and then they would translate that into the animation so that literally what you watched them do on screen was more or less how they did it when you played with the toy, which goes to your idea that you could kind of see how it became what it was. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, I can get on board with what he was trying, because again, if these are ultra complex sentient things that can do these kind of things, it might be more complicated than just the simple toy where you make a couple of turns and twists and you're done. I get all that, but then it becomes kind of over the top. And then the one thing, because I'm me and because I like these things, if you watch the movie and actually watch the transformation sequences, it never happens the same way twice.
Yeah, I thought I caught that because I definitely focused on Optimus Prime transforming a couple times, and I was thinking the same thing. Is like, I don't know if that's the same way that happened the last time.
The one that's really rough is Bumblebee himself, because a lot of times Bumblebee's on camera the same time people are. And there's one point where literally the roof of the car flips over from the back of the back window, and you're like, huh? Because it's not how you did it the last 3 times. Like, it just...
well, maybe that was when he was the old Camaro, and now he's the new Camaro. And
No. But since you brought that up, there's a few things in here I'll concede. It was, while I was not a huge fan of how they handled Bumblebee and his voice, it was at least kind of a cute concept, and it did make for some interesting things, like the fact that he would communicate by radio, but not only that he communicated that way, but before he even revealed himself, the fact that he would play specific music related to what was going on at the time. Kudos to them for that. I will grant that was cool. Mm-hmm. I liked that. I will grant goodness where there is goodness. That was fun. That was satisfying. It felt good. And even when they decided to continue, there's a reason he can't speak, and his choice of just picking pieces of media to speak with was entertaining too. Of course, if he had access to the sum of all human media, couldn't he essentially build a voice out of all of that? Every word that has ever been able to be spoken has been spoken at some point, at some place, and therefore he should have been able to actually just say things. So, kind of breaks the rhythm from there, but yeah, the whole notion that he was something that you could hurt his feelings. So that moment when, he's the shitty old Camaro, and Michaela chooses to pick on him at that moment, and he dumps them out and then goes and finds something else to scan, and then comes back, the brand new super cool Camaro. That was cute too. I like that. But then again, that started the stream of GM is a full sponsor of this thing, and everything is GM all the time if it's a good guy.
Yeah.
With the exception of Optimus.
Right.
So we don't even get to pick up, like, even forgiving the transformation of the characters into the funky way that they do it and the different look overall that they had, when you introduce the other classic characters, it was bad enough that Bumblebee was not a VW bug, which happily the Bumblebee movie rectified. But the fact that none of the other cars ever became any of the things that they were before was also terrible. And like you didn't have Jazz be a Porsche. You didn't have Ratchet be a real honest-to-God ambulance. You didn't have Ratchet be the Ironhide be that red van that he was. I'm like, he could have still stuck with it, but GM had to play too big a part.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they dropped quite a large wad of cash in Bay's pocket.
Well, yeah, and they built it into their entire sales profile for that year, too.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there's a reason you can go, at least in 2007, you could go out and buy the Bumblebee Series Camaro.
Right.
Came complete with badging and all.
Yeah. I'm in the cartoon and in the movie, it was never really explored or anything about how the Transformers came to be, how they, you correct me if I'm wrong, how they, for lack of a better term, procreate and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
How they were created. And I don't actually even need that sort of stuff. I don't like the fact that in this film, it's effectively magic.
Kinda, yeah.
It's a really big cube. It has energy, and any electronic or mechanical device that gets hit with this energy can suddenly transform and be a sentient robot.
Right.
What the hell?
Well, it's not even just what the hell. By the time they explain that that's a thing, why is it that all of them are bad immediately?
That's another good point. I noticed that too.
Even when Sam's got the cube and running away, and he drops it, and it creates a couple more things, and they're all immediately killing machines. I'm like, what? Why? But no, that actually, if you watch enough of it and the extended universe, they do get into some of the source of where they all came from, and it wasn't a magic cube.
Right. No, that annoyed me. I didn't like it. I didn't like it the very first time I saw this film, and I think I liked it even less watching it this time.
Well, what's funny is they mixed the two, too, to completely nerd out. Because at one point, Optimus tells Sam that if all else fails, push the cube into my chest. It will join in my spark and destroy it. His spark is, in the Transformer universe, the spark is your soul. It's the thing that makes you you. It's the source of all of your intelligence and your existence and your sentience. So they mention it, but then they say the magic cube's the thing that makes it in the first place, I guess.
Yeah, it makes no sense as to why one touching another would destroy it.
Nope. No. I mean, there's no explanation to any of that. So despite the fact that we got at least a little backstory about the war, you got no backstory about this thing that's all important to all of them.
Right.
The funny thing is they had and because I was very much into this at the time, there was a prequel comic book series that they had launched before the movie, and it doesn't exactly explain what the hell the Allspark is either.
I was really annoyed about, and so many movies do this, especially this type of movie, is the sort of forced emotion the film tries to evoke in regards to some of the characters, particularly with Sam and Michaela and Bumblebee.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, robot car. Nice to meet you. I will die for you. And it's about that quick. And it's just, it doesn't ring true. It doesn't work. And the film forces it on you. And so we don't think the people will really think it's happening, so let's do it in slow motion and put some really, dramatic music on top and pull at your heartstrings. I'm like, no. Maybe this will work on like a 10-year-old, but this isn't working on anyone else watching this film.
Well, I guess ultimately that's one of my biggest problems with this is I don't know who was the intended audience for this. Like, if you're a fan of Transformers, you probably didn't like this as much as you should have. Some are more forgiving than others, but it wasn't what you went in hoping for. If it was for children, it had way too adult content in it to be for children. If it was for a serious action audience, it had too much stuff that was just bullshit goofy. I think it just failed to be anything that it might have intended to be.
I mean, even and it was inconsistent because you had this, this heart-wrenching moment when they're capturing Bumblebee and Sam's trying to save him, and like I said, it's in slow motion and there's dramatic music, and then later on in the film, I think it's Jazz is killed and literally ripped apart by Megatron.
Right.
And later on, you see one of the other Autobots, maybe it's Ratchet, and he's carrying both halves in either hand like it's a bag of garbage.
It's Optimus, and yes, no, I'm truly offended.
No, Optimus is standing there, and the Autobots come up and they're carrying both halves like I said, in like they're bags of garbage, and they're like, "Oh, we couldn't save them. Oh, well, we lost a great warrior today." Like, why are you carrying them around like spare parts?
Well, no, I am going to correct you. It's Optimus has got him in both hands because he's speaking. He's like, we've lost Jazz, but we gained new friends.
Yeah, I still think
what the hell was that?
I still think one of the other Autobots maybe handed them to him, but it's still just like
maybe
if if your friend was just run over and split in half by a car or something, you're not going to pick up both halves and carry them to somebody else. And yeah, we lost Jim today.
Yeah. No, you're not going to do that. But again, it's that whole, they had good characters that they didn't bother to develop any character for. So, and to say something like that was just so wrong. Like, you kind of missed the point of having one of your closest allies and friends brutally murdered by your hated enemy.
You're waiting for, we've lost a great warrior. Oh, well, and just tossed to the side.
Right. And you know what? Even the death of Jazz in that, first off, I'm just going to go with the word inappropriate for how they introduce Jazz and how he's speaking and all of that. And I know Jazz had a stylized voice in the original cartoon, but it didn't come off near as offensive as this did. And then he said those lines, and that's the last you ever heard said out of Jazz was when he was first introduced. I think he might have made some little quip just before he was torn in half. And again, you're supposed to care. And I'm like, I got like 2 seconds of screen time with this character. And I'm going to jump back one moment because it's really bugged me from the get-go. Is, okay, they took out Bumblebee with fire extinguishers, basically. Able to immobilize him, right? And Megatron's been on Earth for thousands of years frozen in ice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He flew through space. But ice immobilized him?
Or how about the fact that we learned from Optimus that they learned the English language through the World Wide Web. And Megatron's been frozen for several hundred years, breaks out of his ice, and immediately knows everything about the planet, including how to speak English.
Yeah, and where to... This will get into the other one. This is a favorite of mine from even superhero movies because they did this in Man of Steel. The military guys, of course, they've entrusted this artifact to a teenager and this car. I might understand trusting the car more than the teenager. But in this case, they send them off, and they send them to a middle of a populated city to be taken to safety. I'm like, what was the thought process there? You know, literally, the enemy is bearing down on you. Let's go somewhere where we can get the most people killed. I get that you want the interaction of a city. You want these screaming people and all that. But, I mean, this is a matter of, we did it because the script said so again.
Mm-hmm.
Not because it made sense, not because there was any reason this city needed to be the spot to have that happen. Because that was the weirdest part of it all. They were to go there just so that they could get picked up to go somewhere else. So why not go somewhere else to begin with?
Right. Yeah, there is
just
so many plot holes in this film.
It's hard to say there's a plot. I wanted so much more of this, and then, like I said, that was the good one.
Well, you put it on the list during our series of, well, it looked pretty. Do you think that at times this film looked pretty?
I will actually say that I do think at times it did look pretty. I will give thorough kudos to the teams that put together the transformation sequences of the Autobots. The Autobots in particular, they kind of gloss over Decepticons for the most part. You do get Blackout's transformation at the beginning, which is a little odd when it starts to happen because it's so slow. Like his initial transformation, I know they wanted it to make it look like it. They wanted to kind of milk it, but like when we get into the whole Optimus is driving along, slams on the brakes, turns around, and then at speed starts his transformation into his battle stance. That did look pretty damn good. It's hard not to go, okay, I want all of that and none of the rest of it. Just do that for about an hour and I'll go home happy. And then you throw Peter Cullen's voice on top of it all and you're like, okay, you've gotten in touch with my inner child, but then you added all the other parts.
I think that first early transformation was also the only time we hear the sound that we're familiar with. Yeah, the Transformers. Yeah. They don't do it for the rest of the film. That is, no. I'm not sure why they did it as like an Easter egg or something at the front of the film, and then just let it drop. That is what I mean. You're talking about are people who like Transformers going to this movie. They want to hear that sound. They want to hear that sound every time the Transformers transform.
Oh, and I think if I remember correctly, it's been a little while since I've seen Bumblebee. They corrected that a bit in Bumblebee. We got more of that. I completely agree. You had elements that you absolutely should have brought forward, and you only paid lip service to them.
Well, I posted to social media that we will be discussing this thing. I didn't get much in the way of comments on this one.
No?
No, I'm afraid not. Over on Dave over on Facebook says that Bumblebee is what Transformers should have been from the beginning.
Correct.
And Robin over on Spoutable, she said, I had high hopes, especially with Peter Cullen voicing Optimus, but the fight scenes were too dark and hard to follow. Since it was first, I hoped things would get better.
And it's my fear about the new one coming up. I think they're going backward, not forward.
Having watched the next two films in the series, that ain't good.
Oh, and when they start to slip, when these slip, they slip hard.
Yeah, very much. No, I remember, it's been a while since I've watched Bumblebee, but I remember being really impressed with Bumblebee.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. It was a good way to do it because it was just kind of let's focus on a single character and let's take him through a story arc and find a way to really introduce Transformers to Earth.
Right.
So, and then the opening sequence alone of just war happening on Cybertron is worth it just for that.
Oh, yeah, it's been so long since I've watched it, I don't even recall. I'll have to revisit that one.
Yeah, because that's when all of them also, they're far closer to their Generation 1, for those that are novices, G1 Transformers. They all look a lot more like they did in the cartoon.
Nice. Well, and I'm almost scared to ask, what did the critics think of this film?
Honestly, I was scared to read because it got more higher praise than I was expecting it to.
Really interesting.
Yeah, like starting off with just a blurb from Variety, Jay Weisberg. Big, loud, and full of testosterone-fueled car fantasies, Michael Bay's actioner hits a new peak for CGI work, showcasing spectacular chases and animated transformation sequences seamlessly blended into live-action surroundings. So, very much driven by the CGI and the action, not a whole lot on the whole story front. And all of them across the board don't really have much to say on the story front, which, as critics, that's usually, isn't that your business? Isn't it the story? But anyway, then we get one from Empire, Ian Nathan. The script may have rubbery legs, but the action is rock hard. The surprise is the lightness of touch. Treat as a comedy for best results. I get what you're saying, but I can't follow the thread because it wasn't funny either.
Well, I think it tried to be with some of the wit-wiki stuff.
I think it tried to be too, but like the stuff with John Turturro, I love John Turturro, but it just seems so forced and ill-placed.
The only honest moment with any human characters in this film was when Sam and his dad are driving. Sam's dad is going to take him to buy Sam's first car.
Yeah.
And Dad pulls into the Porsche lot.
Right.
And Sam's like, "Whoa, you're buying me a Porsche?" No. It was just like, you're kidding. Of course I'm kidding. I'm not buying you a Porsche. That was the most human moment in the entire film in regards to the human characters.
Yeah, no, that part was amazing. But yeah, if we dip back into some of the reviews, you get something from the Globe and Mail. Not particularly, but I love the quote in here from Liam Lacey. And you almost have to see it to appreciate the line. It says, "Some kind of masterpiece."
Masterpiece. I like it.
I did rather enjoy that. But who I'm really disappointed by, my personal hero.
Oh, Mr. Ebert?
Mr. Ebert. He gave it 3 stars.
Wow.
Yeah, I was expecting him to trash this thing, and no.
Well, he is known to enjoy a film that you can just shut your brain off.
And I'm going to go with that must have been the category. I also have to figure, especially given his age at the time and the age he would have been in the mid to late 80s, probably not a Transformer fan from the get-go. Mm-hmm. So, but his quote that I'll read from, it says, "Now I have fans who say, 'We are so sorry, Michael Bay. You still suck, but we love you.' That's what the director of Transformers told Simon Ang during an interview in Seoul. He could have been speaking for me. I think Michael Bay sometimes sucks. Pearl Harbor, Armageddon, Bad Boys 2. But I find it possible to love him for a movie like Transformers. It's goofy fun with a lot of stuff that blows up real good. And it has the grace not only to realize how preposterous it is, but to make that into an asset.
Huh.
So he's giving it more credit for its goofiness than I would ever give it.
That falls a little bit more into the other commenter about it being almost a comedy.
Right. People are trying. That's what was bewildering as I was reading through all of these various threads. Is like the critics at the time saw it as a big action experience that was also mostly comedy, and I don't think that was the point. I think they tried to get some comedy elements in there, like any good movie does. Even your most heartfelt drama should have a little comic relief in there to lighten the mood once in a while. But this was just awful. You get the occasional little nugget, and the rest of it is garbage.
Yep. No, I agree. And like I said, 99% of everything that went on with the Witwicky family was someone trying to be or thinking that they were hilarious. And it wasn't funny. It was funny for a 10-year-old.
I'm going to really throw you, because you obviously didn't follow it like I did. Sam is supposed to be Spike's replacement.
Right. I remember Spike from the cartoon. Right.
Because Spike's last name was Witwicky.
Was it?
Yes. So Spike and his dad from the original series, this was supposed to be kind of them.
Except not at all.
Exactly. and granted, even in the cartoon, Spike and his dad was kind of a preposterous notion to begin with.
And they didn't do much other than just hang out at the Transformers base, did they?
No, they didn't. Occasionally, because they were mechanics and construction workers, they would help. But I mean, what prayer did they have before it came on? But occasionally you would catch the Spike's dad turning a wrench on a Transformer, and you're like, really? Those things come with hex bolts, do they?
Right, yeah. Good thing those are just a standard gauge, yeah.
Yeah, your regular wrench in your back pocket, that fits them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Doesn't matter that they're easily 20 feet tall or more.
Right.
But sure, your wrench works. I got it. But again, it's a cartoon. I can forgive all of that. This is supposed to be elevated, and it's just ridiculous.
Right. Well, I think that will do it for Transformers. I don't have anything else to say that I haven't already said. I don't care for this film series.
No, and I not that I'll ever say 100% no to anything, but if we never visit any of the others ever, maybe Bumblebee, maybe something else, but any of the others, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, well, I think this one definitely fits into the, well, it looked pretty category, probably better than many of the other films we've watched.
Yeah.
Well, next time when you hear a full episode, we're actually going to jump back a little bit. We've been going forward through time, but we're going to jump back to 1988. We've had a special request to talk about Willow. Former co-host of the show, Matt, has asked to come on and discuss this film with us. Kind of looking forward to it. I am not 100% sure I've watched this film.
I know that I have, but it probably would have been a lot closer to when it came out, or at least like a VHS release or something. And I do mean VHS.
Yeah. So, well, it'll be really interesting to see what Matt thinks of this film. Again, I think when he first suggested it, I thought this was kind of one of these like much beloved films that I just hadn't gotten around to watching for some reason. So I'm a little surprised that he thought it fit so well into our category.
No, I welcome his input, and we'll definitely have to pull that out of him. Give us your explanation of, well, it looked pretty.
Right, yeah. So that'll be fun. Well, maybe we'll understand once we watch it or rewatch it, if as the case may be.
Yeah, no, I haven't even touched on the Disney Plus series, so, and that didn't make it out of its first season.
Right. All right, well, we'll be back in a couple weeks with that. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We will talk to you soon. Please follow the link in the show notes to all our social media and our contact information. And if you have any thoughts on Transformers, any of the films, let us know what you think about it. And Willow, absolutely. Tell us what you know about that one. If I post this one on social media and don't get any comments on it, I'm going to be really surprised.
Yeah, I would be too.
And disappointed. But I'm always disappointed when I don't get any responses.
Pay attention, class.
We'll talk to you next time, everyone. Bye.
See ya.
Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons, the Transformers.